I wanted to be a music photographer. I was convinced that the music business was the business for me, the branch of show business that I was going to be in. I was younger than most of my subjects, and that meant, I think, that it was easier for them to trust me at a time when trust between the photographer and the subject was absolutely key, because we didn't have Polaroid. So they weren't able to see what I was doing. They had to trust me. And that created an intimacy between them and the camera. I find it really difficult to talk about technique, my technique, because for years and years and years, I never wanted my technique to get in the way. I didn't want people to look at one of my portraits and say that was a Gered Mankowitz portrait. I didn't want a style to emerge that was recognizable or would get in the way of the artist. It just didn't feel right. Musicians are real people. They're not paid to pose, they're not models, they're not actors. So I have to try and make it as easy and as productive as possible in order to try and bring out their best. I try in a very short period of time to feel close to the subject, which is one of the reasons why I used to like feeding the subjects. Not only were they hungry, but it's a great breaking bread. You know, it's cliche, but it actually works. So, and it gives me an opportunity to just look at people without appearing to stare. And then you try and guide them into the right space where they will give you that intimate contact with the camera that will communicate something to the audience. Working with the Jam was a very interesting experience because they really had a lot of attitude. Paul had this very dull grey jumper which said nothing, and I sort of rather boldly said to him, you know, have you dressed, you know, that this top is rather dull. He said, hand me the gaffer tape. And I said, okay. And he put these two perfect mod punky arrows on his, and it was amazing. There are certain pictures I've taken which definitely have stood out. Marianne in the pub, I felt was going to be a really important picture to me, and it was because Andrew Oldham, who managed her, also managed the Stones, and he loved that series of pictures I did of Marianne in the pub, and I think it was because of that that he asked me to work with the Stones, so it was an extraordinary thing. My session with the Stones on Primrose Hill very early in the morning in '66, and I built this filter which I stuck on front of the camera, which was glass and Vaseline and black card, to try and create a sort of trippy feeling. I'd never taken acid, so I had no idea what a trip was like, but I sort of had heard enough and seen enough, so I thought I could communicate something about that. That was a really important session. I worked with several fantastically powerful, important female singers. Kate Bush was, in many ways, very easy to photograph. She'd just look at the camera and she was on. When she stepped out of the dressing room, she just looked dead gorgeous, and I couldn't not take a beautiful photograph of her. You feel, you sense in somebody their attitudes. Somehow these people, they know how to work the camera. It's an instinctive thing. Photography is a very intimate process. Even when you're photographing 5 people, there's a real intimacy between, and that's what you've got to try and bring out. For me, I just try and talk to people and try and get them to commit to me and the camera.